welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. This will be a college football playoff semifinal, best semifinals ever of the college football playoff era edition of the Format Podcast. So, before we get to all that, first I want to say, man, happy holidays to everyone. I hope you all, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it was, Kwanzaa. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. I wish you all a wonderful, prosperous 2023. I want to thank you so much, those of you who tune in, watch the show, listen to the show, spread the show. Appreciate all that. I do it for y'all, man. I mean, of course, I do it for me too, but I do it for y'all because from the feedback that I get from those of you who are fans of the show, you really enjoy it. So I appreciate all of that. And I'm going to try to step it up, make the show even better for the coming year, get better guests, get guests more often, really pushing, working on that. So doing the best I can do. So again, thank you so much. Hope you had a wonderful holiday, prosperous and wonderful 2023. So with that said, you know what we got to do. Certain things have not changed, even though the calendar has. Go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell so you're aware when new episodes come out. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, just go to your audio-only platform, type in the Format Podcast in the search bar. Go ahead, get that. Give us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment, helps us rise in the algorithm. And finally, if you love the show, share it with other sports fans that'll appreciate a little bit of out-of-the-box thinking and not just parroting the same things you hear on all the other sports shows. All right, let's get right to it. So, I mentioned in the opening, and obviously you saw the thumbnail here, you know what it is. College football playoff review. It took me a minute to get over all that, man. I was debating, should I do 2 different shows? Probably could have done that, but just gonna pack it into one here. So an absolutely amazing Saturday of college football. Just watching those games and just amazed at everything those guys left out on the field, how hard they pushed, everything they gave it. We had 2 wonderful games. So this year, at least, we don't have to hear about, blowouts and what team didn't deserve to be there and all this nonsense, which, again, that's going to be solved pretty quickly by the fact that coming up here in a couple of years, we're going to have a 12-team playoff, which is awesome, right? You're going to probably get some more upsets and maybe some more interesting things going on. More really good teams having an opportunity to maybe go out there and shock the world. Anyway, that's a show for another day. But so if you remember a few weeks back, I did a show and I was talking about guys like Colin Cowherd and Paul Feinbaum and the other college football elitists who complain about teams who shouldn't be in the playoff and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. So we see a team like TCU started the season unranked, doesn't have an elite recruiting class, blah, 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 just comes in extremely well coached, plays extremely hard every single week, didn't lose until the Big 12 championship game, and even that was a late game heartbreaker. They didn't get blown out, but they get in there, the number 3 seed overall, match up against number 2 Michigan, who kind of everyone thought would go ahead and win the game, myself included. I was talking to a friend, texting with a friend earlier Saturday before the game, or maybe it was Friday, can't remember. But anyway, we were talking about it, and so he picked TCU, and I was like, nah, I think Michigan is just going to be too physical for him. So it looks like I drank the Michigan Kool-Aid, and it's not like Michigan played badly and got blown out or anything like that. Didn't belong on the same field, but it was so interesting from the opening of the game that Michigan clearly was not prepared for 2 things. They didn't expect TCU to be as tough in the trenches as they were. Michigan had been used to having their way on the ground with everyone all year long that they played, and they didn't expect TCU's speed, overall team speed, both on defense and on offense. And it really got them. And, this was such a surprising game to watch, especially seeing that Michigan trailed the entire game. Michigan was the best second half team in the country, even though TCU was a very good second half team as well. But Michigan was the best second half team in the country, a top 5 defensive team, statistically better than last year, even though they lost 2 elite talents in Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo to the NFL. But regardless, the defense statistically was better. They had basically been suffocating everyone, and they had been allowed to do what they want to do, what Harbaugh wants to do, and that's lean on the run game. They had been able to do that all year long. This year, they weren't able to do that the same way, because before you knew it, in the blink of an eye, TCU had 21 points, and that was kind of the crazy part, right? You really didn't expect that. Now, Max Duggan, Heisman finalist, did not have an elite game. He hadn't turned the ball over particularly much all season. I think he had only like 3 interceptions coming into the game this year. He threw 2 this year, but he made the plays when they needed to be played. when they needed to be made, excuse me. And TCU actually flipped the script on Michigan. They were able to run this football for 263 yards, and that's usually the Michigan formula for having success. Michigan only able to run for 186, and I say only 186. Donovan Edwards did everything he could, 23 carries, 119 yards, but the funny thing about that is the first carry he had was for 54 yards. That was on Michigan's opening offensive play. So after that, TCU really did a great job, gap integrity, really being physical up front, standing up to Michigan's dominant offensive line, not being afraid, not getting run over, and really controlling Michigan's run game. What did that do? And Sonny Dykes said it on the broadcast. He said, their goal was to try and take away Michigan's run game up front and force J.J. McCarthy to beat them. Now, J.J. McCarthy can throw the ball. He was 20 of 34, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, they were both pick sixes. Now, we know, number one, you turn the ball over, you lose. Number two, when you turn the ball over and it immediately goes the other way, that makes it a lot harder. So you saw Michigan in a position where they're not able to run the ball and really get it going effectively the way they like to, and pound you and pound you and pound you, especially to where the dam breaks in the second half and they can really start breaking off those long runs, really control the clock because of TCU's speed, TCU's explosiveness, and the things that TCU was doing. Now, TCU, tremendous game by them. All credit due. And honestly, if you know me, you know that I love to see the little guy have an opportunity, quote unquote, little guy have an opportunity, especially in college football, because I'm not a college football elitist. I know that sounds odd because I'm a Notre Dame fan, right? But in general, I'm not a college football elitist because I love to see the smaller teams get an opportunity. UCF a few years ago, Boise State before that. Loving to see what TCU is doing now. I think it's awesome. I think it's better for the sport when you have representatives and teams from all over the country really having an opportunity to show it on the big stage and get up there with the big boys and, the proverbial blue bloods, and have an opportunity to have success and have an opportunity to show that the regular season means something. And if you earn it, you should have an opportunity to play for it. Now, again, Colin Cowherd, I heard him say on his reaction show yesterday that he believes that TCU pretty much blew everything, blew it all, and they're not going to have much left to go against Georgia. I hope that's not the case. Clearly, Georgia's going to be the favorite, defending national champions. They're from the SEC, right? No, but they have been the best team in college football over the last 2 years. There's no argument about that. And this may be an interesting matchup. Can TCU summon it up one more time and, be the Cinderella all the way through? Who knows? But it's going to be very interesting to see. And just watching what TCU was able to do against Michigan, they were able to break off a lot of big plays, even when their star running back, Kendre Miller, went down with injury. His backup, Emari DeMarcado, came in 17 carries, 150 yards, just breaking off big ones. His longest was 69 yards. So you saw it. Quentin Johnson, all-world wide receiver for TCU. He had 6 catches, 163 yards. So you see these things. And on the defensive side, even when Michigan was fighting back into the game, what you saw was an inability to get pressure from their front four. So even though they've had a great defense all year, now a big part of that great defense was the fact that the way they play offense, with really controlling time possession and all that, and pounding a team physically, allows the defense to rest a lot, allows the defense when they come in to, really be able to just kind of do their thing. And the way they played offense kind of forced teams to play a certain way to try to get in the game because they didn't have a lot of possession time. Now, in this game, TCU doing their thing and Michigan unable to get pressure with their front four. And in the next segment where we talk about Ohio State, Georgia, that's going to come up again. But when you're unable to get pressure with your front four, that means what happens now? Defensive coordinators have to scheme up pressure from somewhere else. And Jesse Minter, outstanding defensive coordinator for Michigan. I think he won a Broyles Award. But anyway, he does that. And now it puts you in a position where what? You got guys out of position. You can get beat on big plays because there's no one in that third level of your defense, right? Because you send that pressure, and if the quarterback can beat it, or you get one crease in the run game, somebody's gone. And that's what happened to Michigan more than a few times. Not only were they effective offensively, and they were getting into a flow, but they couldn't get that stop to put them over the top. And also, one of the big things was that Michigan was ineffective in the red zone. You saw multiple red zone trips where they could not punch the ball in and get the touchdown and ended up with field goals. So kudos to TCU for being the quote unquote little guy. And quick note on that, I really feel bad for Gary Patterson. He built that program, brought them from Mountain West champion into the Big 12, got him to the doorstep some years ago. Really had a quality program. Last couple of years, things didn't go so well. Gets fired last year, goes over. I think he's defensive coordinator at Texas now, but he gets to sit back, and I know he's got mixed emotions there. Sonny Dykes comes in and takes the program that he built all the way to the brink, and now they're going to be playing for a national championship. So I'm sure he's happy for the kids he recruited and happy for the program that he built and helped get to this level. But there's also the other side of it where I'm sure he wishes that he was on the sideline here coaching this team for an opportunity to win a national championship. Okay, so now the second game, Georgia and Ohio State. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, we got two thrillers. We got two outstanding games. We got a lot of great quarterback play. And so after watching the Ohio State-Michigan game, a lot of what we thought was that C.J. Stroud couldn't deal with physicality. C.J. Stroud couldn't deal with the pressure, and when teams were physical and they were in his face and there was a lot of pressure, that he wouldn't be able to make plays, because that's what we saw the last 2 years against Michigan. We saw that last year against Oregon, but no, CJ Stroud stepped up, and for a while I've had him as my number one quarterback prospect coming out this year. I know a lot of people don't. I do. I think he's clearly the best of this class. Hey, could be wrong, but that's my take on it. And if you go back and watch my episode with former NFL scout Daniel Kelly, he's really high on CJ Stroud as well. But yeah, you can just scroll through my episodes here on this channel and you can find that evaluation. But anyway, CJ Stroud really did an outstanding job, put himself in a position to probably get drafted higher, and shows that, you know, with proper coaching and preparation, he is a guy that can make plays. He was 20 of 34 for 348 yards, 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on the day. And that's amazing because, you know, everyone obviously knows how physical Georgia is, how outstanding they've continually been on defense under Kirby Smart. Now, it's not quite the same defense as last year, but who would be, right? They lost a whole lot of talent to the NFL, so totally get that. But CJ Stroud had a lot of success on Saturday night. Just tremendous game by him. Tremendous scheming, game called by Ryan Day. And I feel so bad for him, you know, coming off of the Michigan loss where they really got decimated. A lot of people thought they wouldn't have much of a chance against Georgia. They stood there toe to toe, went with him, played with him. But with that, Stetson Bennett played better. Now, I am not a Stetson Bennett guy. I'm on the record as saying that I believe Blake Corum got the shaft in not getting invited into New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and Stetson Bennett kind of taking that place. I thought that was ridiculous, but credit where credit is due. Stetson Bennett, when it was time to step up in this particular game, did a tremendous job. Also 23 of 34, but for 398, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, ran in a touchdown. And I didn't know that he was that fast. He showed a little bit of wheels when he caught the block, hit the edge, and ran that thing in. And then also on that last touchdown drive to win the game, he showed so much. I mean, he was making completion after completion, just wheeling and dealing and dicing that Ohio State defense up. Now, with that said, and remember, I mentioned this earlier with the Michigan game, what we also saw was, again, Ohio State's inability to get pressure with the front four. So what? They are playing that man-free coverage. They're trying to send pressure from other places, and they're getting burned in that attempt. We've seen that a lot in college football this year, but I guess it's a gamble that you have when you send that extra blitzer from the safety or the corner. Somebody's going to get beat because somebody's open. So if you have a quarterback that can stand in there, diagnose that thing, and make the proper throw and the proper read, then you're going to have success. And that's what we saw with Georgia. Now, neither team in this particular game was able to run the football particularly well, but you knew coming in that Ohio State may not be able to run the ball the same way. Obviously, their top 2 running backs dealing with injuries. Mayan Williams, only 3 carries on the game. Obviously, Travion Henderson still out. So they did all they could. Now, I'll tell you where I was impressed. CJ Stroud is not known as a mobile quarterback, but he's a guy that, even though the numbers weren't gaudy, 12 carries for 34 yards, and some of that is a couple of sacks there. He was a guy that took off and made some tremendous plays in the ground game with his legs to keep drives going for an opportunity to help his team win the game when he couldn't get a throw. I think big turning point in the game, Marvin Harrison Jr. getting knocked out of the game, and then the targeting call getting reversed. That was a tough one because you could see it. I mean, I guess you could see it go either way. These bang plays are so difficult, and normally I'm a proponent of the targeting is really difficult because a lot of times you see the offensive player, the receiver, the running back, whatever, hunch up when they see the defender coming to them. And, you know, there's this thing called physics. So if I'm a defender, I'm perfectly aimed at your strike point and I'm set up to hit you exactly how I should hit you in the safest manner possible. Yeah, I know, right? Hitting people in the safest manner possible, right? Yeah, physical game, collision sport. But anyway, safest manner possible, shoulder, mid-body, perfect strike zone. And then the receiver, the offensive player, changes their body positioning. Now, I can't change where my strike zone, I can't change where I'm going to hit you at that moment because I am already hurtling towards you at tremendous speed. So what am I supposed to do? Then I get called for the targeting. I get it. You're trying to make the game safer, but you're really handcuffing defense. It's just not fair, but I guess life is not fair. So you get that situation. Marvin Harrison Jr. unfortunately can't come back in the game. And this is a guy who, to that point, you know, he's got 5 catches, 106 yards. So he is making a lot of big plays, and obviously he's their big play guy, arguably the best wide receiver in college football. So losing him, big hit. But of course, Ohio State is wide receiver U. Emeka Egbuka, 8 catches, 112 yards. Julian Fleming, 5 catches, 71 yards. Xavier Johnson, 3 catches, 43 yards. Not quite the threat, Xavier Johnson of Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, but this is a team that's never going to want for talent when it comes to wide receiver. Also, tight end Cade Stover went out of the game early. That was a tough one to deal with as well. But with all of that said, you still saw CJ Stroud go out there and do it. I mean, he played a tremendous game, did not turn the football over, completed at a high percentage. Ryan Day, he's another one who was wheeling and dealing, called a great game. And it got to a point where on that final drive, just couldn't get enough yardage for Ohio State's kicker to go ahead and knock the thing in. And I know that had to hurt so much, especially for CJ Stroud. This is his last college game. He'll be coming out. And this was an opportunity to kind of change the narrative on him. And to some extent he did. Really played extremely well, especially in the face of one of the most physical teams and one of the best defensive teams in the country. But I feel like I'm talking a lot about Ohio State, but really, I got to give Georgia so much credit because Stetson Bennett played in a way that you would not have imagined him playing, because I don't believe he's a really good college quarterback, but I don't think he's as good as Stroud. I don't think he's as good as Bryce Young or a lot of these other guys that you hear mentioned. He'll probably be a backup in the NFL. Like, you know, maybe he'll start a couple games, but he won't be special on the next level. He won't be a starter, but in this position, in this system with these guys, he's a leader, he's a gamer, he's an outstanding player, and he came through and he really did that. And I got to give the guy credit where credit is due. Again, don't believe he's going to be special on the next level, but for this, he's a perfect quarterback for this team and this system, and he showed it. And we always talk about, you know, pressure bust pipes and, you know, what it looks like in the clutch. And Stetson Bennett did it in the clutch, man. He just made throw after throw and diced these guys up. Never allowed his team to go away when the game looked as if it was going to get out of hand. Ohio State had some big leads. At one point, he's 35-24, and I'm thinking, okay, Ohio State may go ahead and run away with this thing. It looks like Georgia's met their match. They may not be good enough offensively to stay in this thing, but nope, they came back. So it's 35-24, then it's 38-24, then it's 38-27, then it's 38-35. Ohio State scores again now, and that was a field goal. Then it's 41-35, and then Georgia comes down. 5 plays, 72 yards. Outstanding drive by Bennett. I mean, I can't get over it. I just have to keep giving this guy credit because, I mean, on that final drive, Bennett pass complete, 2 yards. Bennett pass complete, 15 yards. Bennett pass complete, 35 yards. Pass complete, 5 yards. Pass complete, 10 yards for the winning touchdown. That's the stuff that no matter what happens in terms of the next level, Stetson Bennett can look back on and be like, man, I was pretty darn good at one point, right? So there's one more game to go. Maybe I'll do a preview show for TCU and Georgia later in the week. I think that most people would have Georgia as the favorite. I'm not upset at that. It's going to be really interesting. Again, we're going to see if TCU's speed and their underrated toughness can match up to the champs. Georgia's an outstanding team. We're going to see if TCU left everything out there against Michigan. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I got, man. It was an incredible Saturday of college football. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I hope if you're a college football fan, you loved it too. So yeah, that's what I got. Go ahead, leave it in the comments section. What were your thoughts on the games? How much did you enjoy them? Do you think the officiating played a major role in who came out on top? And yeah, enjoy the rest of your week as we kind of get back to normal, and as we look towards the NFL playoffs and the college football national championship game. And I'm out. Peace.